Initially, I wasn't sure about my interpretation, but the end has me convinced that I was maybe closer than I actually thought in the moment.
Welcome back to Dastardly Hamster. I'm here with Mika. She just got back from maternity leave. Yay. We are going to be reacting to the Dead Kennedys, one of the most influential punk bands of all time. So if Mika likes this song, then I get to show her another band by the same artist. The reason I've been thinking about them actually is because in a Facebook tournament group recently, just did a tournament of the best punk albums of all time. The Dead Kennedys album, Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables, was the #1 chosen punk album of all time. And I think Dead Kennedys is one of those bands that you listen to it and you're like, okay, this has the punk sound. This is what I think of when I think of a punk band.
Okay.
Because it was one of the first, it's not as crazy as like some of the stuff that came after it. But for me, I very fondly look at this music. I'm like, okay, like this is what started everything. Well, not everything, but this album came out in 1980. So it was the very early stages of punk music. The song I want to show you is called Holiday in Cambodia. This is their most popular song. And I'm actually going to show you the longer version of it. There is a single version of it, but you know what? You're a metalhead. You can deal with the longer one. I don't know what one people prefer, but it's the one that I prefer anyway, which is odd, right? Normally I would want the shorter one, but in this case, I like the longer one. The lyrics are mostly just talking about how we take for granted a lot of the stuff we have here and how bad it can get elsewhere. It does use, unfortunately, this was before we were sort of talking about this, but it does use the N-word. It is a white singer, and I think now they don't use it, but it's not used in a negative way. It's more so used as this person is saying this word, right?
Okay. I've heard the name Dead Kennedys before, but I didn't really know what kind of genre they were. I don't really know anything about them or how they're going to sound, but I'm assuming I'm going to hear the origins of other bands that I might have heard later.
If you'd like to suggest some songs for us to react to, you can donate to us on Patreon or buy me a coffee. There are options for a guaranteed reaction or to enter your monthly suggestions into a draw. Monthly members will get access to our reactions up to a month early.
Kind of funny that it seems to go into like sort of like a James Bond sort of song. What I find interesting is one thing that I associate with early punk is sort of like bad sound quality. And here in this intro, I'm hearing very, very good sound quality. So I find that notable.
I actually find it extremely interesting that you say that, because a lot of people think that this is the worst quality version of the song.
That's funny. That's funny.
The single one is apparently improved quality. I don't think so, but that's what other people say. I like this one. That makes me feel good to hear you say that.
I'm not hearing a whole bunch of background noise. interesting. I do really like the messaging behind this, something that needs to be called out, and they certainly did that. I like that part, you've been to school for a year or two and, you've seen it all. These self righteous kids that many of us have been at some point, thinking that they've seen everything and they're so worldly. A decade later, you're like, wow, I was such an idiot in my 20s. I like this part, the play ethnic-y jazz on your $5,000 stereo, pretending to slum it, but they're actually, very comfortable in their life. I like this. Let's see what's the next part is. I could be wrong about this, but what I'm getting from the lyrics is they present this idea of caring about others and caring about the plight of others, but deep down they are perpetuating the system and they're happy to be near the top even if they're not at the top, and they're fine making money for somebody else who's much, much richer as long as they're not at the bottom of the ladder. They'll be happy to perpetuate the system.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good interpretation.
And this idea of sort of glorifying, how people say like, oh yeah, it's a dictatorship, but at least they get things done, right? There are a lot of people like that who they'll pay lip service to the system that exists, but give them a chance to have control over others and push others down, and they will, just to be near the top even if they're not at the top. Initially, I wasn't sure about my interpretation, but the end has me convinced that I was maybe closer than I actually thought in the moment, where you'll do what you're told and where the slums got so much soul that it feels like very much like Soviet propaganda, this idea of like workers of the world unite, but it's all just meant to push people down. That's The interpretation that I got from it is people who are rich and who pay lip service to the bottom of the ladder, where in fact all they want to do is wield power over those people.
I think that's a good interpretation. I think for myself too, this is a song that I grew up listening to and didn't really have any idea what it was talking about. But yeah, it's really drawing attention to the fact that like things can get pretty bad. Like when you think of foreign tourism and stuff like that, right? Like where we sort of like go overseas and we like have a good time, like helping others or whatever. A lot of people don't have the luxury to leave. Yeah, just something to think about.
In terms of a rating, you've shown me a couple of bands that have that very classic punk sound that I've been expecting for so long. So I'm happy to hear this now. It's not exactly my favorite type of music, but I like it. And I really like the message. That's exactly what I would want to hear from a punk band. It's a tough choice, but I think I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 hamsters.
I'm happy with that. I do recognize that the earlier we go in punk rock, I think less technical it's gonna be. But even for early stuff here, I think like they're doing a lot of really interesting things in this song, which I really do appreciate. Like it's not just like verse chorus, there's actually like a whole bunch of different parts to it, so I really like that. This is a song growing up as a kid I really loved, but I actually got into it for the same reason I heard about it just recently, like through that tournament. I heard about it because just people on the internet were talking about it. And they were like, what's the best punk album? What's the best punk song? And this kept coming up. I'm like, okay, gotta give it a chance. Gotta see what's going on. From that, I've learned a little bit more about Jello Biafra, who is like the lead singer of this band. He's a really interesting character. He actually ran for mayor. It was sort of a joke platform. He had like a policy where it was like mandatory to wear clown shoes.
Okay.
Anyways, he didn't get elected, but he has been very outspoken on a lot of different, like, really important issues. So it wasn't just a joke. He was like, he is a serious guy. But we'll get more to that in some of the next songs that we're gonna go to. That's it for us, Hamstars. Spin your wheel down to that subscribe button.
And give us a dastardly thumbs up.